Hi everybody, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, it's been asked again and John Hield has had to respond, Carnival's had to respond, and this is like the 1,000th time that cruise lines have had to respond to this because people are saying that the cruise lines are keeping the crew members' gratuities. So, cruise tip gratuities have always been a source of frustration for cruisers, right? We feel mostly that, hey, everybody should make a fair salary. Guess what? Just include, if you're going to have gratuities and you're splitting it amongst like 10 different crew members, just include it in the price of the cruise. And if I want to tip somebody above that, I will. That's how most cruisers feel it should be done. That's why some people go down and remove the gratuities and tip who they want to tip. The cruise lines base it on, well, you know what? You might have a cabin steward, but that cabin steward has to rely on 2 other people to help supply them with all the stuff to clean your room, and they don't get any tips because you don't see them. They spread it out. But a person recently wrote in that said, well, one of the influencers out there who claims works on a cruise ship says that what the cruise line does is basically, say the salary of a crew member is $500, but that crew member is made $150 in tips. Well, then the cruise line considers that part of the salary. So they would only pay the crew member $350 and use the $150 from gratuities to top up the $500. And they say this is the way the cruise lines are working. Now, to be honest, some cruise lines out there might do that. But for instance, Carnival comes right out and says, this is 100% not true. What gratuities are collected by the cruise line, but distributed the way they distribute it to all crew members. It is who is designated for. It is not kept by them at all. If it was kept by them, they'd have to declare it as a tax, as an income. And guess what? Crew members would be screaming out there. You would all know. How many cruise members do you know used to work on a cruise ship and have now moved on to other things, yet you don't hear them all coming out and say, the cruise line basically took our tips, took our gratuities, right? You don't hear that. You hear a lot of them come out and say, well, you know, the money might not be very good for some people. And I'm going to admit, if you're, say, a cabin steward and you're from the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, the salary you're going to make there is not good. It's not great. But how many people from the United States, Canada, Australia do you see working in the hotel section? Usually they're all people from, say, the Philippines. And the price and the cost of living there is far, far different. The average salary per month in the Philippines comes out to just under $600 US a month. That's the average salary. So you figure everybody can survive making that money in the Philippines. So if you're making $2,000 with your salary plus tips, even in a low-level position, you're making quite a bit more than you would be in your home country. More than double. Even if you're only making $1,500, you're still making more than double, which is why you can see that cruise lines in these countries are much sought after jobs, because you make that salary plus your food and lodging is taken care of while you're on the ship. You don't have to pay for any food on board. You don't have to pay for anything on board as far as your housing is concerned, etc. You might pay somebody to clean your stateroom. You might bring on supplies for yourself, but that's at your own discretion, right? You might have a laundry service you may end up paying extra for because you have a certain allotment of clothes you're allowed to bring, and certain, if you want to bring more, then you end up paying for it. And of course, it all varies by position, right? How much work, you know, I don't begrudge anybody their money, because from any position you're in there, whether you're working in the kitchen, whether you're working in the laundry, the stateroom attendant, an entertainer, it's long hours, and it can be really, really hard work and super long. But as far as the gratuities is concerned, you don't think the US government or taxation would be all over the cruise lines if suddenly they said, oh, we're paying the crew this, but we're collecting this gratuity from the customer that we're not claiming as income because we're saying it goes to the crew, but we're using it to supplement the salary we're paying these guys? There's no way they would be able to get away with it. It would be impossible. They would be charged left and right. So no, now, are there possibly some smaller cruise lines out there that do this? Possibly. But again, I have a hard time thinking that they have an easy time getting away with that. And I have talked to crew members on Princess, Celebrity, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Holland America, Norwegian Cruise Line, Costa Cruise Line, P&O Cruise Line, and Cunard Cruise Line. All people I've talked to in the past, all crew members, all in lower positions, by the way, not talking to managers and officers, and lo and behold, they all say, depending on their department, if they're supposed to get gratuities, they were getting their gratuities. And it wasn't part of their contracted salary. Remember, everybody who goes onto the cruise ship signs a contract one way or another. They know how much money they're supposed to make. And if the money on top of that goes above that base salary. So yeah, do I think the cruise lines are holding back and supplementing the salaries? Sort of, but not this way. They're not hiding money and then topping off the base pay, right? They're just doing the gratuities and saying, okay guys, look, you're gonna make this base salary, but you can also make gratuities, and that's why you're gonna make more money, and that's why the job looks better, right? It's like waiters. You know, you don't become a waiter thinking your base salary is all you're gonna make. You're hoping to make tips. That's the service industry, right? So, yeah, I think that kind of thing is being done, but I do not think that the cruise lines are supplementing the salary of the base salary. If a crew member goes on board and they sign the contract for a base salary per year, say it's $20,000, and then they make another $7,000 in gratuities, they get $27,000. They don't get $13,000 plus the $7,000 to make it $20,000. And so, yeah, I wonder if we can finally put this question to rest. What do you guys think? Do you think, yeah, cruise lines would have a hard time getting away with this? Or do you think, no, it's all accounting. They could really hide that money pretty easy. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel blogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.